Ching, Hexagram number 55. Abundance, fullness. There is an eclipse clinging to the power of inner truth will cause it to pass. Thunder and lightning symbolize a brief period in which we are able to have an influence on others. When this influence wanes, we must withdraw without delay and no longer focus interest on the situation. Times of abundance refers to times when people are receptive to us. It is said that the sage is never sad because he knows that to hold to the power of inner truth is to overcome all darkening trends. As our teacher, the sage also knows that only slow progress endures. Therefore, he does not rush our progress, because he knows that all learning must be committed to experience. He retreats when the moment of influence wanes, giving us space we need to find ourselves. The sage trusts the power of truth to prove itself. Being free of doubt, he is also free of sorrow and care. Thus he continually produces times of abundance. The power of truth is engaged by an accepting, modest, and independent attitude. We can safely hold to this attitude, for it is capable of producing the beneficial changes we seek. The individual lines of the hexagram illustrate the principles of abundance and emphasize the momentary and cyclical nature of abundance, and emphasize the momentary. Forgive me. I'm going to start that paragraph over there. The individual lines of the hexagram illustrate the principles of abundance and emphasize the momentary and cyclical nature of close and open communications between people, including our relationship with the sage. In the first line, a short period of friendly receptivity and freedom from distrust exists, a time of abundance. The second line notes that this receptivity has been undermined by distrust, so that everything we say is regarded with suspicion, and the light power is eclipsed. The third line indicates that the eclipse has become total, but that we can counter it by holding inwardly to the power of truth. The fourth line indicates that the eclipse is ending. Receptivity reawakens because we have related properly, but we should remain on guard. Egotistical enthusiasm and arrogant self-confidence such attitudes would return all to darkness. The fifth line indicates that by returning to an open mind, we receive the help we need to rectify the situation. Once again, we develop an influence for the good. The top line warns that if we use renewed influence to gain personal power and recognition, the situation will return to stagnation, and we will lose what we have gained. Changing line number 1. When a man meets his destined ruler, they can be together 10 days. 10 days symbolizes a complete cycle of influence, although the actual time period may be for as little as 15 minutes. During the time of influence, others are receptive to us, and we are in tune with the inner truth of the situation. We are able to proceed so long as we retain a hesitating caution and maintain connection with our inner voice. If the other person's receptivity wanes, we disengage. We neither try to prolong the moment nor exceed the opening they have granted. If we presume or self-confidently press beyond these limits, not only will we invalidate the good already accomplished, but we will also throw ourselves away and suffer a loss of self-esteem. It is important to persevere one's personality. It is important to preserve one's personality. It is important to recognize the cyclical and momentary nature of influence people grant us only limited and conditional openings. Beyond the time they have allotted, a time we can only know if we keep assiduously attuned to their moods. Our influence goes through a progressive and swift eclipse. Any reaction other than patient acceptance and withdrawal into emotional neutrality will only increases. Any reaction other than patient acceptance and withdrawal into emotional neutrality only increases the power and duration of their resistance to us. If, however, we persevere through such periods of darkness by holding to the power of truth, our influence will be renewed and the eclipse will quickly pass. This would not be true, of course, if we seek only to exert our personal will or to use the power of truth for personal ends. Influence for the good arises only from a steady will to serve the good. Receiving this line can also indicate that there is a potential opening for having an influence, but that we should take care to keep attuned to openings and closings. Changing line number 2. The pollsters can be seen at noon. The line often refers to times when our influence for the good is blocked for one reason or another. Whatever the reason, The remedy is to cling to the power of truth. Such an attitude engages the help of the creative to disperse the inferior power. This line can also refer to times when our attitude creates an eclipse that isolates us from the helpful influence of the sage. For example, we may distrust the sage's counsel or suspect that fate is hostile or that the way of the cosmos is evil. In the face of such thoughts, the sage retreats until we undergo a change of heart. Changing line number 3. He breaks his right arm. No blame. Influence is always a momentary thing. Whether we are being influenced by the sage or whether we are having an influence on others, misunderstandings are bound to occur in which pride is aroused, along with the ego defense system that accompanies it. The eclipse swiftly becomes total, so that it is as if the one seeking to help has a broken right arm. During such times, it is not our fault if we are unable to help others, nor is it the sage's fault if he cannot help us when we are resistant. During such times, we must let go and wait. This attitude will cause the eclipse to pass. Changing line number 4. He meets his ruler, who is like kind. He meets his ruler, who is of like kind. Because we relate to the problem correctly, resistance and obstruction begin to give way. When tension gives way, however, our childish self emerges to search for rewards or to luxuriate in the improved situation or to indulge in self-assertion. This self can take over if we drop our careful, hesitating, caution, and reserve. It is important, therefore, not to stop and revel in the good news, but to carry on as before. Just as bad events test our steadiness and inner independence, so do good events. Changing line number 5. Lines are coming. At the critical juncture, the right thing to say or do comes of itself. As it is said in Grace, Hexagram 22, a white horse comes as if on wings. When we are harmonious within, what we say harmonizes with the creative, and we win the assent of others. Changing line number 6. His house is in a state of abundance. If after being helped we selfishly seek only to luxuriate in the situation or to dominate, then we will lose all benefits of having acted correctly. To make progress, we must remain selfless. What kind of inner house do we grant those we seek to rescue? Is it cramped or roomy? Have we allowed them enough space, Or do we think they are not fit to live in a roomy, beautiful house? How do they fit into our lives? Can we include them with our friends and family? If not, how much does our vanity have to do with the problem? If we require them to conform to a list of capricious demands or to jump over a number of prideful hurdles before we'll grant approval, our house is in a state of abundance. So long as vanity plays even a minor role in our effort, we will be unable to rescue others. We must disallow all self-flattering considerations and require of others only what is universally just, essential, and correct. We also seek to be master when we stubbornly refuse to relinquish pride and alienation by abandoning as hopeless those we are meant to rescue. We execute them. Forgive me, I'm going to start that paragraph over. We also seek to be master when we stubbornly refuse to relinquish pride and alienation by abandoning as hopeless those we are meant to rescue. We execute them by heeding the call of our inferior man to pursue self-interest. We cast aside our cosmic responsibility and depart from our path. This completes hexagram number 55.